Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to another Friday morning entry here. Before diving into some holiday horror and getting back to those occasional 80s films, which I haven't really done for most of October, I wanted to touch on one more little throwback here from the 90s for the 1995 film Tales from the Crypt, Demon Nite, starring a very stacked cast, which include William Sadler, Billy Zane, Jada Pinkett Smith, Dick Miller, Thomas Hayden Church, CCH Pounder, and Roger Rabbit himself, Charles Fleischer. So this was part of a planned trilogy which only lasted 2 out of those 3 films after the second one, Bordello of Blood, which we'll touch on a little bit later on here, failed to meet expectations at the box office. Now the synopsis for this film, which is based on the original comic and the television show Tales from the Crypt, and presents like a feature-length episode, is as follows. High-level demons collect low-level demons as warriors in attempt to obtain a key containing the blood of Christ. The key is guarded by immortal warriors called the Demon Knights. So, never really heard it kind of explained that way, but that's kind of like what it is. You know, demons need something, good guys are guarding it and trying to keep it safe. Easy. But to give like a play-by-play as best as I can without actually going into spoilers, to just give you an idea, this opens up with a car chase. I think the song is called Nice Shot by Filter, playing in the background. Fiery crash after a little gunfight there, and a survivor making his way through the night to try to find a place to kind of hide away and bed down after this altercation and crash. A tattoo of sorts is like on his hand, showing the stars aligning, kind of guiding him to where he needs to go. Now, upon this character meeting Willie, played by Dick Miller, he's ushered into this motel that's run by CCH Pounder's character, and eventually we meet the rest of the cast as this demon, played by Billy Zane, closes in on them, trapping them inside. That's where we have Charles Fleischer, Jada Pinkett Smith, and of course our lead in this is William Sadler. So as the synopsis says, this demon is after this key containing the blood of Christ, a kind of cosmic MacGuffin in a way, which can be used by the demons to kind of bring about the end of the world as we know it and kind of tilt existence back in their favor for one that's more suitable to these demons. There is more history that is given, and that's one of my favorite parts of this, is that Sadler's character does kind of lay out everything about this. You know, he's been on the run with this key. He goes into history about where the key came from, what it is, what it can do, who's had it previously, and even a bit of how he actually got it, what the plans will be for it in the future. Now, we really get these great flashback scenes as he first starts having little flashbacks, and then he starts just explaining all of it to kind of fill us in after we've gotten those small bits earlier. Such as it's got this power derived from this blood that's inside, which can create these magical barriers as they need them and can burn the demons if it touches them. Now, as they are kind of cornered in this motel, the story begins, the story becomes kind of one of survival, you know, getting through the night, keeping the key and themselves safe, and all while these demons are trying to find a way around the magic to kind of get inside and get that key, often through like these hallucinogenic, like hypnotic persuasions of sorts, which a little bit more on that in a moment. But the situation gives us a really good setting to learn more about these characters, connect with certain ones, and it really sets the story in motion. Now, as for those hypnotic persuasions of sorts, this provides kind of like an altered reality for us to view. You know, seeing these dreamlike scenes of temptation and promise being brought to our characters, all to try to trick them into kind of letting the demon in or giving them the key or something along those lines. Now, one nice thing about this is that none of these characters feel forced into like this, or make the sheer number of characters ever feel overwhelming, you know, despite there being several of them, because even though this film does have a lot of comedy aspects woven into it, this is a horror movie, so people are being killed, you know, sometimes quickly, kind of thinning out that cast one by one. We know just enough about most of them to care about them, and certain ones are picked off along the way, kind of whittling us down to only a few left. Now, although everybody in this film does a great job with their roles, I will say it is Billy Zane who really makes this one. He just steals the show with his mix of humor, charisma, and this like manipulation that he's able to pull off. He brings to this like threatening aspects of this role of this demon. He brings all of that to it. He really does an amazing job. And I don't even know which one of those things I like the most, his humor, his charisma, or that manipulation and everything. But like I mentioned, there is a lot of that humor in this one. They really try to keep this one light, and not just in the opening and closing kind of portions featuring our host, the Crypt Keeper, as he's introducing this film, playing that he's working on a movie as a director. But, in general, they try to not take this one too seriously. But we do get violence. We do get a little bit of gore. There are some more serious scenes throughout, and often, but there's also this sense of humor which is kind of bubbling underneath that top layer the entire time, and it pokes out whenever we need something to kind of lighten it or bring a little bit of energy to a scene. So I've always thought that this one is really a lot of fun. I'd seen it in the theater back in the day more than once. I'd even gotten it on Laserdisc, later DVD, and now I've got these Shout Factory Blu-rays of both this one and Bordello of Blood. Now, I hadn't seen this film in about 10 years, and while it seems very familiar, since I have seen it so many times, it still is more than worth checking out, either on disc or on Stars or paid rental, which is where it is right now. And from that, if you enjoy it, a quick second recommendation here, which may or may not work for you, which is a follow-up, Tales from the Crypt, Bordello of Blood, starring Dennis Miller, Erika Eleniak, Angie Everhart, Chris Sarandon, and Corey Feldman, for which the synopsis is as follows. The Crypt Keeper returns to tell the story of a funeral parlor that moonlights as a vampire bordello. So yeah, lighter synopsis and a shorter running time. This one is also a lot of fun. Dennis Miller really brings in a lot of humor as he plays this investigator who's trying to track down Erika Eleniak's brother, played by Corey Feldman, who's gone missing. Now, as the audience, we know that he got wrapped up in this bordello that he visited with a friend, which happens to be run by vampires, played by Angie Everhart. There's lots of nudity, lots of sex jokes. Dennis Miller, like I said, he brings a lot of really good comedy to this role, with various seemingly ad-libbed lines. But this one was not as well received as Demon Knight, and I would agree upon that opinion. Even upon rewatch, I just don't feel it's as good. While it is shorter, it's also a bit disjointed to the point where it feels a bit all over the place and like it's just going on a bit too long. But looking at some of the info about the film, it's likely due to various rewrites, reshoots, and so on. There were a lot of trouble on sets, a lot of clashing personality. Things got pretty toxic, from what I've read, and some of that comes through in the lack of chemistry on screen. But with all that said, it isn't horrible. If we use Demon Knight as the basis to grade everything by, and that's the 10 out of 10 in this series, I would say Bordello of Blood's probably a 5 or 6, A bit too much humor, the pacing is way off, but ultimately it's worth checking out. And speaking of checking out, thanks for checking out my latest little video here, mainly focusing on Tales from the Crypt Demon Knight, which I said at the time of this video is available on Stars as well as on disc and paid rental, of course. And I would absolutely recommend that one. And if you like that one, I would recommend checking out Bordello of Blood. Now at this time it's only available on paid rental, but it's still worth checking out if you end up enjoying Demon Knight. But lower your expectations going into Bordello of Blood, and I think just knowing that there's going to be a lot more humor and it's a little bit disjointed, you might be able to still end up enjoying it. Because while Bordello of Blood kind of failed at the box office, I don't think it's a horrible film, and I know that it caused that third title to be canceled. I would still like to see more of these. Maybe give me one feature-length episode kind of film like this every year would be really cool to have. Just don't go crazy on that budget, so if it doesn't work out, there's still enough profit to make another one. Anyways, that's going to turn into a ramble. We'll just say that's all I got for this one. Be sure to like and subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and I will see you in the next one.